Hello everyone. Today I am going to continue the lectures in context of the intersection and relationship between economic, social, and public policy. I had presented one part of the presentation or one part of the lecture in the previous session in the previous class. Today I will talk about the remaining part of this so that I would be able to complete this intersection relationship. When you talk about the relationship and the understanding of social and public and economic policy, these are all interrelated in the sense that there is a thin line, or rather there are certain particularly if you talk about social policy and public policy, there's a little difference or there's much more similarities as compared to the differences, whereas economic policies are entirely different. Now if you look into it, social policy is often seen as a subset of public policy, as it addresses various specific public concerns and public issues, and which is used as a mechanism of public policy to implement its goals. So both the larger aim or the broader objective of both the policies, whether it is the social or public, it looks into enhancing the quality of life of the citizens, addressing any social challenges, any social issues, though they do approach these from different perspectives or from different angles. Public policies particularly encompasses a broader framework of policies, and whereas social policies confined to more a sectoral approach, whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is housing. So but then often there is a tremendous influence, or there is a tremendous interconnection and interdependence of social and public, because social issues are often drive the need for creating public policy intervention. Though the mechanisms of implementation and formulation is done through a government body, and there's an authoritative decision involved in making these policies. For like if I give an example, like increasing homelessness may lead to public policies which would be focusing on affordable housing. So we can say that if we want to tackle the issue of homelessness, or if you want to tackle the issue of poverty, or if you have to tackle the issue of income in disparities or employment generation, so these in this area the public policies which are affecting, or which the social issues or challenges which are affecting the larger population, there is a public concern. And if we want to create housing facilities, or if you want to bring about affordable housing schemes, then that become a social aspect of out of that public policy. So publicly it has a public concern, it has a public interest, and the larger public interest policies are being created. So conversely, public policy can set frameworks, it can set give a course of direction within which social policies are operated or they function, such as setting budgets, taxation, policies, or economic conditions that would impact the welfare programs. Now if you talk about the collaboration, development and implementation, of course social policies are implemented through public policies mechanisms, requiring collaboration between governmental departments, governmental institutions, local authorities, and even sometimes private or non-private organizations, voluntary institutions. So there is a collaborative effort, there is a concerted effort between social and public policies, because these social policies are administered, they are formulated within the structure of public domain, public sphere, like the bureaucratic system is involved in the formulation, implementation, monitoring, supervision and evaluation. So in order to develop, in order to implement policies, these are being deliberately administered, or these are administered through the mechanism of governance. There are various governmental bodies and institutions, ministries are involved. There is a hierarchical system which is being followed in order to formulate, to have a discussions, to look into the public agenda, that what are the most demanding needs, what are the most demanding issues which would require certain attention or immediate action. So in that manner, social policies, they have a collaborative relation with the public policies in terms of their implementation and development. Although similarly, in similar in that they both try to aim, or rather the broader objective and aim is to improve and safeguard the interest, the welfare of the society, the interest of the people. There are key differences or certain similarities and differences between social and public. Some of them would include, like, social policies can be aimed at specific areas of society, such as specific marginalized communities, while public policy generally entails towards the general welfare of the public. Like if I talk about education, or if I talk about sustainable environmental practices, or affordable housing, or if I say, if I talk about sanitation, or if I talk about cleanliness drive. So these are for all the general public, but social policy specified itself to a particular community or a group, or to a particular group, community, or individuals, or marginal, especially those who are marginalized. So public policies are more in general, whereas social become more and more specific and could be narrowed down depending upon the need and depending upon the kind of policies which is required for a particular section of a population. Social policy particularly focuses on addressing, resolving social issues, specifically such as racial, any kind of health disparities, education, economic inequalities, poverty, while public policy broadly covers any governmental related actions concerning the general public at large. Again, it is being said that it might be cornered, social policy would be aimed at resolving inequalities issues, which in terms of education, in terms of economic. Public policy, it covers the government related actions, because here the government has the priority, or the government, it is the government's prerogative to look into these matters concerning the general laws, general population, which would also be in the form of laws and legislations, amendments, changes in the constitutional provisions, bringing about amendments. So social policies are particularly directed towards aiming the welfare of the society, and looking into various various inequalities or disparities. Whereas public policy, although it also focuses towards the welfare of the people, but it talks just not about the welfare measures and welfare scheme, but it also talks about laws, legislations, enactments, rule of conduct. There are certain moral practices, socially, ethically. All these would be concerning around public policies, because we are looking into the larger section of the population. Then social policies would be essentially a subset, or rather it is a subset of public policy, which means that while all social policies are public policies, but all public policies are not social policies, in the sense that all public policies would be social policies. Means that social policies, that while all the social policies, they would be considered, or they come under the umbrella term of public policies, but not all public policies are social policies, because under public policies there are economic policies, there would be environmental policies, policies which would look into the functioning of an institution, so forth and so on. So that is there. When we talk about economic and public policy, a basic characteristic of public policy is that in areas specified later, it concentrates on the analysis of how the public sector functions. So the public sector is the antithesis of the private sector, where an individual or a company decides for themselves on the nature of their private interests and their execution. So decision making occurs in the public sector that might involve both, an influence that both involves and influences a number of individuals or institutions. So it is here that the public interest is, among other things, the productions and distribution of public assets is formulated and asserted. So when we talk about, economic policies or economic and public policies, economic institutions, primarily it would be more of a private. There is, amalgamation of a private, or rather there is a connection, or two distinct sector, that is a private and public sector. So public economies are it is directed towards the economic aspect of its functioning, while public finances focuses on the principles and mechanisms of generations and usage of public budgets. So public policy could be the term for government actions intended to affect the public. It is a very broad term, and it encompasses virtually all aspects, all significant and important roles of the government, ranging from education to social welfare to law enforcement and to economic activities or economic pursuits. So, in terms of economics, it could be said that public policy refers to areas that impact education, infrastructure development, and maintenance, business regulations, law enforcement, and scientific and technical research. So, these factors combined their combined effect brings about or accelerate economic growth. So laws and policies, they have an economic impact, which means they affect economic decisions by you and others, decisions you and others make. So they also have an impact on how the government decides to expend taxpayers' money. Most governmental policies, they are intended to assist with economic growth. When you talk about economic and public policies, it is particularly focusing on the economic growth and economic development, either through ensuring fair competition, minimizing harmful negative externalities that might reduce the quantity and quality of factors of production, or improving business conditions. The impact of government policies on economic growth is huge. Local, state, and federal government policies or the governmental policies can significantly impact economic growth. The government promotes economic growth by influencing the three major components of long-term economic growth, like is human capital, physical capital, and the technological progress. So historically, however, this can be said that public policy initially was rather limited, but since the Great Depressions of 1930s, which I had earlier discussed about, the historical aspect of public and social policies, the government began actively monitoring and encouraging economic growth through regulatory, fiscal, and monetary policies. So it is difficult to debate that there is a positive or negative relationship between a public policy and economic growth. But then this is because the governments don't continuously pursue the right policy or the most efficient one. Rather, in a given time frame, the government uses the right regulatory policy or fiscal policy or monetary policy or so that economic growth would be positively impacted. So it is not about how rightly or well which type of public policy they are using, but in order to regulate economic means and talking about economic growth and development, the government would rightly talk about or rightly put in use the regulatory policies or fiscal policies or monetary policies in order to bring about this economic growth. So in cases where national economies have been growing along with state institutions, the situation is often one of growing state intervention and involvement in the public economy. So whether it's education, health sectors, or in provision matters related to social security or governments, they have all developed universal public services that was never available before. Now, there had been satisfactory relationship between groups which may be disrupted or altered by economic change or development, and those that feel adversely affected or threatened may demand government action to protect their interest or establish a new equilibrium. Sometimes relationship had been existed in the society, but of course, whenever there is an economic upheaval, whenever there is an economic change or development, and those communities or those population which has been adversely affected, they would be demanding certain actions from the side of the government. They would be seeking attention of the government to protect their interests, to safeguard their interests, to establish a new equilibrium. Like, for example, if I would say during the pandemic, migrant population was adversely affected. Many business, was hampered. Many people went unemployed. So, in order to tackle the economic crisis, there was a lot of economic crisis, and this economic crisis has affected not everyone, but yes, those who have come under the lower income bracket or those who are marginalized communities, they were adversely affected. So the governments, and they demanded government's attention, which the government took up and created viable opportunities, certain schemes, certain welfare measures to address their issues and concerns. So rapid industrialization and growth, of big business in many parts of the globe in the later part of the 19th century had produced new economic conditions. So farmers, small businessmen, reformist elements, and aggrieved parties called for government action to control big business. So clearly, one factor that affects what government can really do is the way of welfare programs available. Is the available economic resources. So what kind of other economic options and economic resources are available? So many policies did not get successful due to the lack of economic resources. Sometimes the government do not have much economic resources, and so the welfare schemes and programs also do not flourish or do not grow well. So social conflict and change provokes certain demands from the government for government action. Recently, the decreasing sex ratio has produced demands by domestic and international environment for making policies to save the girl child. Policies like Ladli, Beti Bachao are the steps in the concerned field. So whenever there is a change or where there is any kind of disruption in the society, looking into the economic aspect or looking into the need of the hour, the government creates policies. Similarly, growing concern about the social conditions of the disadvantaged sections of the society, especially women, has produced demands especially civil society, to take up for the women empowerment. Again, the growing unemployment among the young population of India has made government to start new policies and programs like Skill India, Startup Scheme, Udan, so on and so forth. So at the very moment, when weak economies and rising unemployment demand a strong social safety net, public policies are being turned into sources of private profit. When government as willing partners, the privatization of public goods and the monetization of social care now beckon as a new frontier from which profits might be wrung, from the provision of healthcare and clean water to the running of education system and prisons. So it is quite clear how the institutions of private capital might invest in and profit from what were one public services. So then the market failures in human services, sometimes in both the private and public economies, are now arguably the central public policy issue of modern societies. Public policy and economic growth has a very strong bearing by saying that the real GDP per capita and economic growth are affected by public policies that would impact labor force participation and productivity. Secondly, government policies that invest in technology affects economic growth. Thirdly, the government can directly spend money on infrastructure, education, and scientific and technical research. So this boosts economic growth in the short term by increasing aggregate demand or the total amount of spending. Then there is a supply side fiscal policies which will focus on cutting taxes to boost production, and as a result would accelerate economic growth. And then short run supply side fiscal policies affect aggregate demand, aggregate supply, and potential outputs. And then the long term supply side fiscal policies affect household and business economic behavior. When we talk about social economy, there is this terminology that the social economy, where the social aspect is included in the term in economic aspect. So the rise of interest in social economy is also given the rise to an interest in measuring its economic value and its relative size with the broader economy. The purpose of social economy is not primarily about the production and exchange of goods and services in pursuit of private ends or of monetary value, but rather the creation and use of social relations for the production of social value. This is true when, social economy organizations are producing social goods and human services, or whether or whether they are engaged in commercial production within the mainstream economy. It is the social aims and collective nature of these enterprises that distinguish them from capitalistic firms. So social values are embedded in the structure of these organizations, and a market for the creation of social value is not the same as a market for capitalist accumulation. So, in most countries, the character of social economy organizations and their role in the society is implicitly acknowledged as different from the private business and requiring a different approach. For example, government provides tax support to social economy organizations such as cooperatives, non-profits, charities, because they create social benefits which that are worth supporting and are in the public interest also. So around the world, the principle of tax exemption to non-profit is well established. Now, what is the difference when you talk about social economy? There are two aspects related to it. There's a role of private sector as well as the role of public sector, and this distinction. If you want to look into the difference between private and public sphere, between the private and public sector, the distinction manifests itself both in the differences between institutions and the interests which they follow, and in the individual preference. The basis of private sector lies in the fact that an individual decides for themselves on the nature and execution. By contrast, it is the public sector where decisions involving and influencing many individuals and or institutions are made, and where the public interest is predominantly formulated and realized. So it is possible to compare the public sector to a household where resources produced by its members are accumulated. Inside the household, decision making also concern how these productive resources will be utilized. So citizens, political institutions, the government and the bureaucracy occupy the public sector, while interacting individuals, producers and consumers, various non-profit institutions, the commercial institutions, they have come to occupy the private sector. So individual groups and elites often use the criterion of public interests for the resolution of problems in the public sector, while private interests prevail in the private sector. And it is commonly assumed that the system public institutions contribute to the common good. So public institutions, as long as they function well, are without doubt just as important for the development of the state when viewed as an economic resource. So the problem is, of course, that it isn't totally clear how these state institutions should look like and function in order for it possible to say that they function effectively and from both an administrative and managerial viewpoint. It is possible to ask question as to whether there exists criteria by which we could specify the difference between public and private sector. But on the possible answer, one possible scope is that to define public sector as a sector financed from the state budgets. However, this criterion overlooks the regulatory role of the legislature. So we can also associate the public sector with the political and legislative activities of the government, the state and its consequence, and also with what the government provides to citizens, for example, various handouts and services, employment, state ownership. So this delineation would reduce the public sector to merely a branch of state administration, whereas local government and the activities of civic associations that are of benefit to public would be excluded. The interrelations between social, economic, public are complex and dynamic, and these are certain domains which influences on one way or the other. Like if you talk about social and economic policy, its impact economic growth. Social policies are those which would related to health, education, security, etc., which would directly impact the economy by affecting the productivity and well-being of the workforce. A well-educated, healthy population is essential for economic growth because they become the human capital and an human asset for any organization to grow, for any nation to grow. So economic constraints, the economic policies such as taxation and government spending would determine the resources available for social programs. So in times of economic downturn, social spending may be cut, which would affect the provision of essential services. Then redistribution and equity. Social policies often aim to redistribute wealth and reduce inequality, which can influence economic stability. Economic policies in turn can either support or hinder these social goals depending how they are designed. And then if you talk about the relationship or connection between economic and public policy, I have discussed earlier also, but then very briefly I would say it again. Economic goals in public policy, economic objectives such as controlling inflation, reducing unemployment, and fostering growth are central to public policy. In fact, governments use public policies to implement an economic strategies such as fiscal and monetary policies. Then regulation and market dynamics. Public policies regulate regulate market and industries to ensure fair competition, consumer protection, as well as environmental sustainability. These regulations, they can have a significant economic implications, influencing business operations and economic outcomes. And then resource allocation. Public policy decision determines how resources are allocated across various sectors, which impact economic development. For instance, policies that would prioritize infrastructure development can stimulate economic growth by improving transportation and communication networks. Social and public policies, they addressing social needs. Public policies, they are often driven by the need to address social issues such as poverty, healthcare accessibility, education, equality. So social policies, they are implemented through public policy measures such as legislation, subsidies, and public services. Talking about social justice and rights, public policies reflect societal values and norms, often enshrining social justice principles and protecting human rights. So these policies, they promote equality and inclusion, which are supported by public policies that would enforce anti-discriminatory practices or anti-discriminatory laws and social welfare programs. Talking about social stability and governance, effective social policies contribute to bring about a social stability, maintain equilibrium, balance in the society, which is crucial for effective governance. These public policies are designed to maintain order, to maintain law and order, promote social cohesion, often through social safety nets and community support programs. There is an integrated policy approach between all the three. There is a holistic policy making system. So the interrelations between economic, social, and public policies necessitate a holistic approach to policy making. Policymakers, they consider that how economic policies will affect the social outcomes and vice versa. For example, in economic policies that promote job creation should be aligned with tackling social policies that provide education, would help them to have accessibility, livelihood opportunities, provide them training to ensure that the workforce can meet their new job demands. Plus, it would also enhance their socioeconomic conditions. So there's a feedback loop. Changes in one policy area can create feedback loops that would influence other areas. For example, economic growth driven by public investment in infrastructure can lead to increased tax revenues, which can then be used to fund social programs, creating a cycle of positive reinforcement. Then balancing competing interests. Policymakers often face the challenges of balancing competing interests between social equity, economic efficiency, and public governance. So it's a public policy or policy aimed at reducing government debt may require cut in social spending, which could have an adverse consequences. So that would be one of the critical aspects. So if there, if the government has to face certain economic crisis, then in order to save the nation from the larger debt or from any such calamity, then certain it would have a bearing on the social consequences and socials. It would curb the expenditure in social setting. So it can be rather said that repeating the mistakes of mass production state welfare system of the mid-19th century, that a new form of social economy, welfareism, can be developed that takes further the social innovations. So there is an opportunity here to create, models, new models of social welfare that learn from and move beyond the weakness of the old statist structures. Health, education, and other forms of social welfare are all open to more responsive, more flexible, and ultimately becomes more effective. More effective forms of care would, when coupled with the untapped power and potential of the social economy. So, the application of social economy principles in practice, such as reciprocity and cooperation, and the emergence of democratic, distributed, and user controlled social care systems, may allow nation states to move to a new configuration of social welfare, so that of the partner state, which reinforces the rise of civil networks, supports new form of social innovation, and recognizes the central role of civil society in promoting the common good, especially in the area of social care. So, what are needed are social economic policies. What are needed are social economic policies that recognizes social and mutual foundations of the social economy as a distinct paradigm that would relate social principles to the economy, to resource allocation, and to a new understanding of wealth creation. So, a nation's social economy contributes to the socialization and democratization of markets, and the economy and the economy and is a key force of transforming this productive matrix. So, in the short, I can say that as I was discussing about social economy, so the social economy is a unique space with its own requirements and in need of institution that would reflect the logic and aim of its operations. This entails a holistic and integrated approach to social economy development, the creation of what might be called an ecosystem of institutional supports, which analogous supports analogous to the existing ecosystem of capitalist institutions that service the capitalist economy. So, with respect to the production of social or relational goods and services, there is also an urgent need to understand and to construct a type of social market that supports and values the production of and exchange of social relations without turning them into commodities, as in the case in the capitalist market. So, in summary, and I would like to conclude that social economic public policies are deeply connected, and effective policy requires an understanding of how decisions in one area will impact the others, and a coordinated approach is often necessary to achieve balance and sustainable outcomes. Thank you all. This was all. This has completed the lecture on the relationship between economic, social, and public policies. In my next lecture, I would take up values and principles in social policy. Thank you.